What is something you are very proud of, but can't put on your resume? At age 38, now 39, I changed my lifestyle and lost 66 pounds in the last year. I trained my cat to use the toilet. Falk cashier, we are making you management. I treat my dog real well. I'd hire you. When I was like 9 years old I made a full court basketball shot. Just stepped up, shot it, made it. No one saw it, but it was one of my proudest moments. When I was 15 my mom died and me and my brother moved in with my sister, who already had 3 kids at the time. We were really struggling to the point where we were almost homeless, but because of my age I wasn't able to get a real job. I started selling weed and telling my sister that I had found a temp job washing dishes. I gave my sister pretty much all the money, and with it, she was able to move us out of a 1-bedroom to a 3-bedroom apartment. She ended up getting a boyfriend with a job, so I was able to stop selling. Got an official job about a year later and nobody in my family knows about any of this 6 years later. Would be cool if I could put it on my resume, especially now that it's recreationally legal in this state. I'm an older man that can still put both of his legs behind his head. How old we talking? 57. In college my first time back in the 80s, I got in a fight with 3 guys that had a woman penned up at her car in the parking lot, grabbing ass, tugging on her jeans button, and putting their hands up her shirt while she was yelling for help. It ended up going to fists, where I got a super lucky shot early on one guy. He went backwards all the way over the hood of her car and down on the pavement, like he was dead. Landed like a rag doll. He was already going over, and I caught his momentum with the perfect roundhouse. It completely wrecked his shape tons. His 2 friends got off me instantly, freaked, and took off around the corner of a dorm. I'm still proud of that, luck or not. I'd love to update my employee file with it. Being able to pull myself out of suicidal depression brought about by having dwarfism, 1 attempt, to becoming a software developer with a steady income and my own flat. I made roughly $2,000 from being a man horse exclusively towards older women during 1 year in college, in order to pay off some charges from the financial aid office. Shows real entrepreneurial spirit. Donated a kidney. It's been 10 years, but I'm still quite proud of myself. That's awesome. Did you know the recipient, or was it a stranger? Thanks. It was a family member, who's doing awesome. I can lick my elbow. Very flexible and determined to achieve even the most challenging tasks. My body blasting full-blown stage 4 cancer into full remission after just 3 chemo treatments, and keeping it there ever since. I'm really happy about that, but it's just not relevant for a resume. Holy shit T, man. That's impressive. I'd still put that on my resume. Activities, making cancer my BATCH. This is lame, but my history knowledge. I have a decent sketch of Western history in my head from Romans to the Soviet Union and a loose knowledge of the present, but it's not really useful in any way. Not like the guy who trained his cat to use the toilet. Yeah, that guy is a legend. I've ridden my motorcycle solo across the US 4 times, visited 40 states, and camped at every national park you can get to without a boat. Map of the journeys. It's been a hell of a trip, but not a professional selling point. I'm really good at mashed potatoes. Edit. Recipe is completely basic. We are talking run-of-the-mill, normal, Thanksgiving and Christmas style mashed potatoes. Boil them in salt water, add a few bay leaves, you'll know when they are done. Mash with salt, milk, and butter to taste. Comes out perfect every time. Smooth as a cloud, but stands firm against the gravy. I'm pretty good at kendama, a Japanese wooden skill toy that requires a lot of self-motivation and self-discipline. Hatsukachi City in Hiroshima Prefecture is considered to be the birthplace of the modern Japanese kendama. Kendama is particularly loved in Japan, where national competitions are held. Japanese employers recognize applicants who have achieved higher dan rankings in kendama as being patient, persistent, and determined potential employees. A lot of people might view playing with a skill toy as a waste of time, especially in America, where you are expected to maximize your ability to profit as an individual. I mean, come on, if Japan can appreciate the effort that goes into getting good at kendama, then we should too. Kendama is a great way to hone your mind and body though, and shows that you are determined towards a goal that you have set for yourself. I ran away from an abusive home with no real knowledge of how the world works. I actually am autistic and went most my life with no help at all, and I have PTSD, but I ended up happily married with a son. I went through tons of therapy to break the cycle before I had my kid, and my parenting style is the exact opposite of the abuse I went through. As a matter of fact, I'm the exact opposite of my old family. There's been a lot of hard and dangerous times for me since I left because that family is insane. But I built myself and my life from the ground up with less than nothing to go on. I can't really put it on a resume because it's just going to make people see me as too much. But I'm still proud of how far I've come. When I was in high school, I threw a party and a friend drunkenly put a hole in the wall right by the entrance. My parents would be back in a little over 24 hours. The day following the party, I went to Home Depot and explained to the guy working there my situation. To which he basically told me, yeah dude, you don't have enough time to fix a hole in the wall. After getting all the supplies, I figured I was good to go out with some friends for a while, come home and quickly fix the wall. I come home from being out around 10 PM, giving me about 12 hours before my parents would come home. I fill up the hole with the mesh and sheetrock. Now it's all filled up and smooth, still wet and obviously a different color than the wall itself. I remembered that my mom painted the wall herself a few years back and there are still paint cans left over in the basement. After grabbing a can that matched the color of the wall, I got ready to cover the spot. The second I painted onto the wall, I immediately noticed the paint color was too dark. It's the same color, but a much darker shade, so my mom must have thought it was too dark and added white to lighten the color. So I go back to the basement for white paint. I spend the next few hours trying to find the right shade that my mom used so my wall would match in color with the surrounding walls. After an eternity, I finally get the right color. It's 3 to 4 AM at this point, and I paint the whole wall. Once I'm done, the wall looks great. You can't even tell there was ever a hole. My next obvious issue is the smell of paint. One step into the house and my parents would immediately know something isn't right. It reeks of paint. That's when I remembered seeing a can of blue paint in the basement. I grabbed the blue paint and a poster board used from a school project and make a sign saying welcome home. I then hang the sign in the same room as the wet wall, on an opposite wall to draw attention there, and off the painted wall. I purposely leave the can of blue paint there on the floor with the lid off, to help sell the reason for the strong smell of paint. Then I went to bed, exhausted and with only a few hours to spare. I woke up when they arrived to greet them / see if I was gonna get busted or not. My plan worked like a charm. I got away with it. They loved the welcome home sign. I know what you must be wondering, but what about the wet paint? There's no way it dried in time. You're right, it was 100% still wet when they arrived. I just prayed nobody would touch the wall. That's one of my stories I'm actually very proud of. That was over 10 years ago, and I'm still just as proud today of that accomplishment as I was back then. When I was in college, I made the cover of the newspaper by flipping off the cameraman. The coolest thing about it is that the school has kept an archive of every single newspaper since they started it back in the 1800s, so there is a copy of that being preserved there for future generations to see. It would make sense to put something like being an editor or writer for the college newspaper on a resume, but not making the front page using my middle finger. I'm still proud of it though, a fun reminder of the good times I had in college. I grew up in a religion/cult and was fully in it until I was about 22. At 23 I started to get out and finally got fully out by 24, well, as fully as you can when you still have family in it. I went back to university at 23 and just finished first year, Camp C, and I'm currently doing an internship for the summer and am really enjoying it. It's been a mad journey these past 6 years, but glad to get it sorted out. I'm still working on a lot of things that still feel weird, but I'm getting there. Also, I look pretty young for my age. Most people think I'm 19, so people at uni, work etc. all assume I'm normal, so no one really knows. But yeah, obviously not resume worthy, but I have a lot of respect for anyone that can turn their life around, especially those born into shitty situations, poverty, abusive families etc. Living successfully with non-pathological DID, MPD. I've gotten my doctorate, run transition housing in my spare time, keep a job, and have an autoimmune condition, and all this, while a group of us timeshare a body. I think that's pretty cool, but it's not the type of thing you tell your employer. I have repairman effect. Shit just does not misbehave around me for the most part. If it does, I take it apart and put it back together in the obvious way, and it mostly works again. Of course, the only reason this operates is that if things ever do misbehave, I really can actually troubleshoot and work out what to repair or replace, or manufacture replacement parts for. I get grumpy people to be happy. I work really hard at it. It's usually cashiers or people who are consistently in the same area. I try not to overdo it. I'm happy, polite, and quick with my method of payment. If I'm paying for something, I work on them, being friendly, until eventually I'm greeted with a smile, and we become acquaintance friends. I'm always genuinely happy to see them, and I hope I bring sunshine into their lives.